Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. I was sitting down and reflecting on my September budget, which my September budget is all out of whack because if you don't know, I feel like all my past few videos have been about it, but we just moved from Tampa to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we prepared for this move. Like, we saved money, we were ready to do it, but still there's just so many expenses that come with moving, and I was like adding up everything we spent, and I thought it would be maybe a cool video to sit down and tell you guys how much it costs to do a pretty significant move. The move from Tampa to Charlotte is about 8 hours. It took us 10 to drive it because we stopped a few times to eat and with our pets. It's pretty close to 600 miles, so it's a pretty significant move. Took us 10 hours, 600 miles. So I thought maybe this would be beneficial for someone who's planning a big move to think of how much money this is going to cost them, maybe some tips and tricks. We definitely tried to do everything as affordable as we possibly could. So when we go through the budget, I'll definitely tell you guys where we saved money, where we probably could have saved money, any tips and tricks that I have. If you have any tips and tricks on how to make a move affordable, please leave them in the comments. This can be like the home base for someone doing a big move. Obviously, this apartment is not our forever home, so I'm all ears to more tips and tricks because I'm sure we will be moving again at some point in the future. So moving is very expensive. It's not something to take lightly. When I realized that we were going to be moving, we started saving for it. We saved about $2,000 for the move. You'll see we definitely spent more than that, but we at least had that to offset the expenses a little bit. So that was very valuable. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe and stick around. I love making these financial type videos. Right now, I'm trying to figure out my new budget now that we're in a new city. I'm trying to see what my spending habits are going to be like. So I haven't really had a good financial video to make. I love doing like monthly budgets and what I spent in a month, but I'm still kind of trying to figure out what that's going to look like for the foreseeable future. I thought this would be a good financial video to make for you guys. Okay, I feel like that's all I had to say to get this video started. Honestly, let's just jump right into it. I have the expenses broken out into a bunch of different categories, so we'll just go through every single one. Starting with finding ourselves a new apartment. Things I am not going to include in this because I think this is up to a particular person, but we did actually travel to Charlotte for a weekend to tour apartments. We ended up buying flights as well as an Airbnb, and then obviously all the food throughout that weekend. But I don't think everyone does that. A lot of people move sight unseen, so I don't think you have to go tour places. I really wanted to do it because we previously moved somewhere sight unseen, and it wasn't exactly what I would have probably picked. It was definitely important to me to go and tour those apartments, so that's something to keep in mind. Moving expenses is, are you gonna go and travel and spend a weekend in your new city to tour apartments? Because that's, you know, an added expense right there. But after we toured the apartments, we ended up applying to 2 apartments. Again, this is not something that I suggest, but this was a mistake that we made. We toured like 8 apartments over the weekend we were there. We ended up applying for one of the apartments. I think it was like apartment number 4 or 5 that we viewed before we saw the rest of the apartments. I think we just felt like pressured. It was the last one left. We liked it. We thought it was perfect. And so we applied for it right there that day. And then the next day we went and saw some other apartments, and I was like, oh wait, I like this one better. So that was kind of like my mistake for really jumping the gun on that first apartment and just applying for it right out the bat. So if you are gonna go view apartments, see all the apartments before you make your decision. That's like a big character flaw of mine, is I'm like very impatient and I like want everything right now. And that is something I've been like that my whole life. So when I saw that apartment, we were like, let's do it, let's apply for it. And then we saw the rest and realized we wanted a different apartment. So we did end up applying for 2 different apartments. For the first apartment, the admin fee was $200 to apply. And then the application fee was $90 for us both to apply. A lot of the apartments were having deals, so they actually were refunding the admin fee if you applied within a certain amount of time. So that $200 is supposed to be refunded to me they're supposed to mail me a check. I still haven't gotten that. It's been a few weeks, so I'm probably gonna reach out to them and figure out what's going on with that. But for the sake of totaling this up, I'm not gonna include that $200 because I am supposed to be getting that refunded. And then for the second apartment, the one that we actually ended up moving into, again, the admin fee was $200 to apply and the application fees were $100 to apply. Again, that $200 admin fee is supposed to be refunded. They did refund that to me already. That's good that we got that money back. Definitely, that's a tip I would say, is to ask about deals that they have going on. Even if they don't have a deal, maybe they can do something for you. Like if you sign a lease, they'll refund your admin fees. I find that's something that they will do for you a lot. So when it comes to application fees, definitely ask if they will refund you if you move in. So just for applying to apartments, my total after the refunds was $190. In order to secure our apartment, once we applied, got approved, all that good stuff, we had to put down a deposit. Deposits are gonna range on a pretty big scale. They run a credit check on you, and so the deposits depend on your credit. So our deposit was $100 for this apartment, not very high, which was great. And then renter's insurance, pretty much every apartment requires you to have renter's insurance. You can either pay renter's insurance month to month, or you can just pay it all up front. Renter's insurance is pretty affordable if you just do like the bare minimum coverage that your apartment requires. So that's what we did, and I went ahead and paid it all up front. So in order to secure renter's insurance for the entire year, that cost us $147. And then you also have to go ahead and pay your first month's rent. For us was $2,574. That's where they took that $200 admin fee and credited it into our first month's rent. So first month's rent was a little bit cheaper because they were able to take out that admin fee. We've applied to the apartment and then we had to secure the apartment. So to secure that apartment, we paid deposit, renter's insurance, first month's rent, and that was $2,821. I will say with securing the apartment, that is something that came more out of our like monthly budget because it's our rent, right? That was our September rent. That's something that we already budget for month to month. So this wasn't anything really extra than we already pay on a monthly basis. So now we've applied to our apartments, we've secured our apartment, and now we need to get moving. This is where we started to think about packing up our apartment. So moving supplies, how are we gonna do this? So for moving supplies, I did go to Walmart because I wanted to get started. I got some bubble wrap and I got like 4 boxes and my total was $32.60, which as soon as we did that, I realized how expensive it would be to buy all of our boxes. We probably ended up moving with close to 30 to 40 boxes if I had to guess. So right then and there when I realized how expensive moving supplies are, I started scouring Facebook Marketplace, which is a big tip. Lots of people give away free moving boxes, moving supplies, because once you move, you have all these boxes and it's such a waste to recycle them when you could just give them to someone who needs them for free. I had a hard time getting the boxes off Facebook Marketplace because they went so fast, right? Someone would post free boxes, they would be gone so quick. But after like 2 days of trying, I ended up seeing a guy who was selling his boxes, which like fair enough, but it was a lot. He was selling around 30 boxes for $30, which is a really good deal. It was also a bunch of bubble wrap and just literally everything you could have needed. So I bought all of his boxes from him for $30, bringing our total for moving supplies to $62.60, which is a really good price when you think about, I bought like 5 boxes at Walmart for $30 and then I got 30 boxes for $30. So that's one of my biggest tips, is to check Facebook Marketplace for moving supplies because you can either get it for free or you can get a really good deal on that. So now for the move itself, we chose not to go with professional movers. I've never used professional movers, to be fair. I just think they are insanely expensive. And I know a lot of people say it's worth it, but I feel like I've found a really good method that works good for me. I've done this multiple times now. It's really not that bad and you save thousands and thousands of dollars. I think the lowest quote that we got for professional movers was around $5,000. And yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. I can tell you that right now. We just barely spent $5,000 on everything, rent included. So professional movers was not gonna happen, but I have my ways to work around this. So first off, the truck. The truck is the biggest expense for everything. So we do drive the truck ourselves. There's three, I feel like, big players in the moving truck business. I feel like the one everyone always thinks of is U-Haul, and then there's Penske, and then there's Budget Truck. So I did a price comparison for all three, and Budget Truck was the cheapest by $300, which is a pretty big chunk of money. I feel like naturally we always would just go with U-Haul because that's kind of the first thing that we think of when we think of a moving truck. But I'm so glad that we thought to take the 10 minutes that it took to compare prices on the websites and go with Budget Truck, because that right there saved us $300. So the cost for our truck, this is a one-way move, which is always a little bit more expensive than if you drop the truck off at the same location. Budget Truck was $1,325.21. Also, for our one bed apartment, we got the 16-inch truck. 16-inch, I keep saying 16-inch. It's 16-foot truck, which is like the medium truck. So it's not the biggest one, not the smallest, but it's right in the middle. And then the second thing that we do for moving, which this is kind of how I get out of that professional mover cost, is we use TaskRabbit. If you're not familiar with TaskRabbit, it's an app where you can get on there and basically hire people to do tasks for you. I've used it for a lot of different things. A lot of people will use it to build furniture. Like if you get IKEA furniture, you can hire people to build it. You can hire people to clean your apartment. You can hire them to mount your TVs. You can hire them to run errands for you. You can literally get on there and just hire people to do stuff for you. So we hired people to load and unload our truck. For loading the truck in Tampa, we hired 2 guys. I should also mention my fiance is a young guy who is very capable of helping to load the truck. So we had 3 people between all of them to load up the Budget Truck. I can link the TaskRabbits that we used down below if you are curious, if you're in these cities and you need help moving, I highly suggest. So we hired 2 guys in Tampa for $244.25. That includes, I tipped them 25% on top of what the actual total was. So that's all in with a 25% tip. It took them a little bit less than 2 hours to load the truck. That's another great thing with TaskRabbit is there's not these minimums. A lot of moving companies have like 4 or 5 hour minimums. 2 hours, they were done, paid them $244, and we were loaded up and ready to go. I did not have to lift a finger. I sat in our living room and just supervised, and they loaded everything up. I have done this before. Like I've said, I've never had an issue with TaskRabbit. I highly suggest it. I know multiple friends who have used it for moves, so I highly suggest it. The only thing I will say with TaskRabbit that, you know, just keep a lookout for, make sure you confirm with these people, is it is possible to get a late cancellation. I had this happen once on a move. My tasker who was supposed to come Saturday morning canceled on me Friday night. That was very frustrating. I was able to find another tasker that night, thank goodness. So it all worked out just fine. Just make sure with the people that you're hiring that there's good communication. Usually hire them about 3 weeks ahead, and then I confirm with them multiple times that they're gonna be there. Then you're pretty set. This guy who I had hired, his communication wasn't great. That kind of makes sense. So that's the only thing I would say to look out for, is because these people aren't on a contract, they're not professionals, they could maybe no-show on you or cancel last minute. But you know, just kind of read the room, get the vibes, confirm with them multiple times, and you should be all set. So then gas, we drove the Budget Truck, and my car, I drive a Toyota Prius, so she's great on gas. We do love that about her. So gas for both the truck and my car cost us $264.99. Gas for the truck is pretty expensive. And then we hired only 1 TaskRabbit in Charlotte. I thought I'd put my fiance to work a little bit harder in Charlotte, and we'd only hire 1 guy because I think unloading is easier than loading. So my fiance and our 1 TaskRabbit in Charlotte unloaded the truck. It only took them 1 hour to do it. So this is with 25% tip. I paid him $63.60. So for the move itself, the truck, the guys helping us load and unload, the gas. Total was $1,898.05. Last kind of category that I have included in our budget is the old apartment. So moving out of the old apartment, there are a few fees associated with that. One fee that is definitely optional, but I wanted to pay it is the express cleaning fee. So they charge you a cleaning fee to move out if you don't want to do the cleaning yourself. And with us moving a big, long 10-hour day, I really didn't want to have to delay leaving any further, because if we loaded the truck and then I cleaned the apartment, that would take another 2 hours or so. I just didn't want to have to worry about that. I wanted to load the truck and hit the road. So we went ahead and paid that cleaning fee, which was $250. We also had to pay our last month's rent. We moved out August 31st, but our lease didn't end until September 2nd. So there's always that overlap between leases where you're kind of paying for both. Ours luckily was only 2 days worth of rent, but we still had to pay those 2 days of overlap. So that cost us $276.53. And then last thing to kind of get away from that old apartment was forwarding our mail, which is not very expensive, but that cost $1.10. So the old apartment, leaving that behind, cost us $527.63. I feel like you could look at our total spend in a few different ways. The first way I kind of want to look at it is just getting from point A to point B. So let's not include first month's rent, renter's insurance, the deposit, just looking at applying for new apartments, getting the moving supplies, getting the rental truck, driving to Charlotte, moving out of our old apartment, so getting it cleaned and the mail forwarding. That brings our total to $2,401.75, which is pretty much right on par. Like I said, we saved $2,000 for the move, so that's kind of what I was budgeting for. So I feel like we were kind of right on track with that. We were able to move out of our old apartment, get the moving truck, drive 600 miles for a little bit over $2,000, which I feel like is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. But if you want to include our new apartment, so like the first month's rent, the deposit, all that good stuff, then our total spend for everything that I just went over was $5,499.28. So we're a little bit closer, $5,500, but that again includes first month's rent. So it just kind of depends on how you want to look at things. I don't really like to include the first month's rent in this budget because I just feel like I said, that's on our everyday monthly budget anyway. So I'm not really gonna include that. A few just other things to consider. One, you might sell things, so you might be able to make a little bit of money back. I feel like not very much. Usually when I sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, I'm just trying to get rid of it, so I'm selling it for pretty cheap. We did sell 3 things. We sold our bar stools for $30. We sold our couch for $150, so cheap. And then we sold our bar cart for $45. So just off Facebook Marketplace, we made $225, kind of trying to offload some of that stuff. So, you know, you can add $225 to my $2,000 budget. We made some money, so we had a little bit extra money there. Other things that you might want to think about, I didn't include them in the budget, but I think they're things to consider. I'll just list them. Food on the road, food, coffee, all the things that come with a road trip. I think we spent around $50 if I had to guess. We stopped for lunch, we stopped for snacks. So, you know, you do have to eat and take care of yourself on the road, so that's something to think about. Also, furniture or anything new for your apartment. I feel like stuff just comes up when you're moving into a new apartment. Even if you're not buying big furniture pieces, we are lucky that we have a lot of hand-me-down furniture. That's kind of what we are planning to use. But I did place a few big Amazon orders. I got some random stuff, bath mats, sink caddies, shower shelves. We did buy bar stools, which was a big expense. We needed 3 bar stools for our new apartment. So just on kind of those basic things that you always get for a new apartment, we so far have spent about $750. So that's something to consider. The bar stools were around $300, so they were a big expense in that. Are you gonna need new furniture? Are you gonna need a couch, a bed? Those things really add up. Last thing that I think you should consider with a move is you know, we show up here and we have an empty refrigerator, an empty pantry. So we had to do a really big grocery restock. We needed a lot of those staple items, but our big grocery restock was around $350 for a lot of basic things that we just kind of everyone needs in their pantry. So that's definitely something else to consider. If you want to add all of those things I just listed to my total spend with rent and everything, it comes out to $6,637.38. Feel like there's a lot of different ways to look at these totals. Like I said, I think the main one, the $2,400, that's what it costs for us to get from point A to point B. The other things are kind of going to be dependent on the person. Do you need new furniture? How much is your first month's rent? Things like that to consider. But hopefully if you are doing a move, this kind of gave you at least an idea of things that are going to cost you money. I just feel like we were constantly swiping our card. Things just come up out of the blue. Like, who thinks, oh, I need renter's insurance, or oh, I need to pay to forward my mail. Like, just these little things just constantly add up when it comes to a move. Overall, I feel like we did a pretty good job keeping costs down. I mean, we did a lot of the move ourselves, especially with driving the truck and not using professional movers. I hope this maybe helps somebody if you're planning a long distance move, what things to look out for. Our move went so smooth. I can't even believe how smooth it actually went. We kept waiting for the ball to drop. We were like, when is something gonna go wrong? And it never did. So if you are moving, I hope your move goes just as smooth as ours did. Make sure you subscribe, especially if you made it to the end. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for sticking around as always. And I will see you so very soon in my next video. Bye guys.